Is that it? You people are over here all the time, is that it? Or are they going to have a siren?
I think we're good.
We're good. I think it's on. Good afternoon. It's virtual, but I can see a few people out here. It's good to at least be talking to a few people. Take this off. There. I'm Henry Link. I'm the MC for today. I'm the commander of John W. Dill Post 434 and a past County American Legion commander. Welcome everyone that's virtual. This is a solemn day, and we will do our best to make it that way. First up, we have for the invocation Stan Koski. He's a past county commander, and he is the District American Legion commander and the County American Legion, no, not commander, District American Legion chaplain and County American Legion chaplain. Stanley? Anybody with a cover on, uncover.
On this, the 19th anniversary of September 11th, may each of us pause to remember, reflect, and renew our country's commitment to the fundamental values of inclusion, equity, and diversity. On the morning of September 11th, we were all stunned by the billowing black smoke against the brilliant blue sky and mourn the loss of thousands of precious lives. The images and events of that faithful day have left an indelible imprint on our hearts and minds. Remember that day with sadness, and remember the awe-inspiring unity we all felt, a collective national expression of how Americans can come together across racial, ethnic, and class and geographic lines. Let us reflect on that spirit we felt that day, when we resolved the fact that we are all Americans working together with compassion and generosity and understanding. Amen.
Next, we'll have Susan Raleigh. She's the president of the Blue Star Mothers of Chautauqua County. People that don't understand what Blue Star Mothers are, a Blue Star Mother is any mom that has a child or had a child in the military. They do a great service. It solves a lot of problems. They are a good, cohesive group. Susan?
Thank you, Henry. Where were you when the world stopped turning 19 years ago today? We all remember the moment we heard about a plane hitting one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and the realization that it was a terrorist attack on our nation the moment the second plane hit. The United States was under attack. We lost nearly 3,000 innocent Americans that day, in and around the Twin Towers in New York City, at the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and in Pennsylvania, where some everyday heroes took over a plane and most likely saved many more lives. We watched in horror as our heroic first responders, along with many others who never considered themselves heroes, but became heroes on that bright and sunny September morning, along with the days and weeks that followed. I always wonder as I stand here in the presence of so many of our military heroes, why I was asked to speak. I have never worn a uniform, nor have I ever served our country. However, I am honored to have been chosen to speak on behalf of the military families in our area. I can honestly say that for all of us, these past 19 years have been very difficult. My son has served for the past 15 years and continues to serve today. When we look back on September 11th, 2001, we think about the brave firefighters and policemen in New York City and at the Pentagon and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We think about those who lost their lives in the attack. We think about their families. We think about those men and women who bravely joined our military in the days, weeks, months, and years following 9/11, many of whom were sent directly to a war zone in the aftermath, and over 7,000 who never returned home to their families. Thousands more who were injured and returned home with scars, seen and unseen, that changed them forever. I still think about them all, along with their families. That is over 10,000 American heroes and over 10,000 American families who have endured the horror and terror of losing a loved one tragically, along with countless others whose lives have been altered because of the scars of war for them and their families. We need to remember each one of them today and hold them in our hearts. What strikes me the most today is how much we as Americans have changed in the past 19 years. When I think back on the days following the attacks, I remember a different America. We had just endured one of the most devastating times in American history, yet out of the rubble of the towers, the Pentagon, and the crash in that field, there arose an amazing wave of patriotism. We were all Americans. We all felt the same loss. Stores ran out of flags to sell, and they were being flown everywhere. People were Americans before anything else. We worked alongside one another, respected one another, we accepted one another for our differences, and we welcomed them, as we are a nation that is made up of differences. We all mattered. We still do. I know COVID has been a very difficult time, but I am here to remind you, as a representative of military families everywhere, we have been through challenging times before. We have endured, and we have overcome only as Americans do. Let us work to become who we were on September 12th. We were Americans, and united we stand. We have proved that over and over. We will not be divided. We cannot be. It's up to all of us to make sure that doesn't happen. Our flag stands for freedom. Our fathers, our mothers, our sisters and brothers, our children have fought, and they are still fighting for freedom. Let us all remember 9/11 by vowing to show more respect to one another. And let us all work to be sure that we are much more deserving of that respect. We owe it to our America. Always remember our fallen and what they have sacrificed for our freedom. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. She always does a great job. Next up, we have James Lemansky. Jim Lemansky. Jim is the Chautauqua County American Legion commander. This last year, we had a real challenge. The American Legion normally elects a new commander every year. This last year, because of COVID, Jim is the first one in the American Legion history that has held the Chautauqua County American Legion commander's job for 2 years. So he gets to do this twice. He's a good man. Jim.
Thank you. Good afternoon. 3,000 people lost their lives on September 11th, 19 years ago. Of those 3,300 of them were first responders, firemen and police officers. One of these firemen was a man named Stephen Spiller, who was a member of the 343rd Company of the Manhattan Fire Department. It was his day off. He got going to play golf with his brother. He got caught in a Lincoln tunnel. He heard on the radio what was going on. He put on his firefighting equipment and ran the 2 miles from the tunnel to the tower. An hour later, the tower collapsed and Stephen was dead. We must never forget these first responders who put their own safety ahead of their own. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Next up, we have Greg Carlson. Greg is the Chautauqua County Veterans Director, doing an excellent job. Thank you, Greg.
Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for being here. I remember as a kid growing up, hearing my grandparents and parents talk about certain times in your life where you remember what you were doing and exactly what was happening on that day. I can remember my grandparents talking about Pearl Harbor Day. I remember my dad talking about the day John F. Kennedy was assassinated. In my lifetime, 9/11/2001 was that day. I was an Air Force recruiter. I was assigned to the 313th Recruiting Squadron, and we were doing our annual training at the reserve station in Niagara Falls. Now, on a weekday, a reserve base is not very busy. This was before the entire world was controlled by smartphones, and at your fingertips, you knew exactly what was going on. We were in an old building. We were in a classroom, and our class started at 8 o'clock. We were supposed to have a break at 9, but for some reason that day we decided just to continue through. We probably wanted to get to lunch a little earlier, so we skipped the break. Right around 9:15 to 9:30, we heard the base siren go off. We didn't think much of it. We just figured they were either testing the system or some training must be going on. Then shortly thereafter, someone came and knocked on our door, and I'll never forget the look on his face. And he said, "We've been attacked." And all of us were quite confused at that moment because we weren't sure what that meant. We didn't know if the base had been attacked. We didn't know exactly what they were talking about. Obviously, we all funneled to the closest television and turned it on and realized that, in a way, our entire country was under attack. And everything that happened after that is a blur, but it was a profound moment that changed everybody's life. It changed the fabric of America for a period of time. And I remember that moment vividly because that was that moment in my life where I'll always remember where I was and what I was doing. So many things I learned during that time that we seem to forget. A couple of things that stick to me. The first is that tomorrow is not promised. 3,000 people woke up that morning and had no idea that that would be their last earthly day. And after that, I remember thinking to myself, never give up an opportunity to tell somebody that you love them, to tell someone that you care about them, or to forgive somebody, to let go of grudges, because all those things that you think are so important in a moment like that aren't important anymore. The other thing that struck me was that this country is an amazing place of people with a servant heart. I think of all the first responders, and it's just a mental image I have, that as other people were trying to escape the building shortly before it collapsed, they were charging upward. And that is something that they did voluntarily and of their own free will to save other people. And beyond that, the many human beings that were in that building, that were employees there or in the Pentagon, the stories that you hear time and time again of them holding someone's hand or saving someone or letting someone go before them, and that person waiting at the bottom to never see them come out. And those are things that, even though that day was traumatic, it showed the true resolve of the American people and the serving heart that we as Americans have. I'm humbled that you're here today to remember 9/11. I'm humbled to have the opportunity to speak in front of you, and I know that I will never forget 9/11. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Greg. Next scheduled is Sheriff Quantrone, but he's in a meeting and he can't get out of the meeting, so we're going to skip him. Next up, then we'll have John Griffith. He's the Director of the Emergency Services here in Chautauqua County.
Thank you. We hear a lot about first responders when we talk about 9/11 and the heroes that, as they say, went in when other people ran out. And I am very proud of the fact that we have some great first responders here in Chautauqua County who do the same thing through pandemics, through fires, through natural disasters, and move forward. The people who served in New York City that day were a special lot. There were people who didn't have to do what they did, but they did it because that's what they did do. And for that, we all have to be thankful. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm a first responder. I'm very proud of the fact that I can stand here with these military veterans today. I'm proud to be part of Chautauqua County and proud to be an American. Thank you all very much.
Next, he's been here several years. He does an excellent job every time. I enjoy listening to him. Andy Goodell, our New York State Assemblyman.
Good afternoon. 9/11 demonstrated the best in humanity and the worst in humanity in one day. We saw the worst in humanity when unmitigated hatred drove individuals to take over a civilian aircraft, 3 of them, and drive those aircraft intentionally into civilian targets and the Pentagon with the intent of killing as many innocent people as possible. And if the story ended there, it would be a sad, sad day in humanity's history. And while it was indeed heart-wrenching to witness the loss of life on that day, the response showed the best in humanity. When people all across this country responded with generosity and with compassion and with personal commitment, including first responders from Chautauqua County. And here we are, 19 years later, still recognizing and honoring the best in humanity. And when you look back on history, those who were responsible for one of the worst days in humanity are no longer on this earth. And they died in the ignoble role they played. And those who stepped up and demonstrated the best in humanity are still in our thoughts and on our minds and are being honored today. Let that be a lesson for the entire world, that we should strive to be examples of the best of humanity. Thank you.
My bad. That worked just as a warm-up for P.J. Wendell, our Chautauqua County executive. He was supposed to be first, but things happen.
Thank you, and I'd like to welcome everybody here on the 19th anniversary, if you will, of 9/11. Alan Jackson wrote, "Where were you when the world stopped turning?" And I remember vividly because I was one of those teaching a class of innocent children, and although they were high school kids, I remember somebody coming in and saying they just hit the World Trade Center. And it was kind of mind-boggling, and we turned on the television, brought it into the gym, and watched for the rest of the afternoon. As things started to unfurl, and you pause, and I get chills just standing here thinking about it, because about 1 o'clock that afternoon, my cell phone went off. And this is where 9/11 changed for me and a family here in Chautauqua County. Because it was on that flight that Amy King was a flight attendant. One of the 3,000s that lost their lives, but to anybody in Chautauqua County in a small town of Celeron, New York, knew who Amy was. If you went to school with Amy, you knew who Amy was. And her passion, her exuberance for life, and her kindness was remarkable. A friend penned a song later that day about Amy. And it made us all remind just how quick life can change. She made it a point that she was going to be on that flight with her then boyfriend. They were together. And unfortunately, that image of that plane is the one we see over and over again. And it's changed our lives forever, but in a way that her legacy, her kindness, her passion for life has resonated in these 19 years later. She's been a beacon of hope for so many. She's changed the world in Chautauqua County and in Celeron, and there's scholarships after her name, and children are living life in her memory. But the important thing about that was that it will never be forgotten. You know, John Griffith spoke about the 343 individuals who went in when everybody was running out. And many of those individuals taught people here in Chautauqua County. And as Dave Joy can tell you as a firefighter, New York City firemen are among the bravest in the world, but they share their knowledge with everybody. That day, the world changed forever. Thousands of years of knowledge were lost. And there wasn't a question. And I remember I was married not a little more than a week before this, and one of the first challenges we had as I came home to my wife and I said, they've asked for a ladder truck to go to New York City, I'm going. And she's like, are you kidding me? We didn't think twice about it. Over 30 individuals from Chautauqua County left and gave of themselves for whatever was going to happen to share in that brotherhood and sisterhood of dedication and devotion. So although the terrorists thought they were going to change our lives, they did, but they changed it in a much better way. They showed us how to unite. They showed us how to work together. And some 19 years later, I think it's very poignant that we're in that same struggle. We need to emerge tomorrow on September 12th with a concern for uniting, for working together, for showing that compassion in a time when it is needed more than ever. We need to put down our differences and look at one another the same way we did on that September 12th morning. We need to commit ourselves to being one nation, united for a cause, for a hope, and for a future. I take this time to remember every life that was lost on that day and remember of what we are and what we have been in the last 19 years. A united nation that will work together and succeed. Thank you for everybody for attending today, and God bless.
Thank you, PJ. Next up, we have George Barrello, New York State Senator.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you all for being here today. Earlier this year in February, I had the opportunity to go and actually visit the 9/11 Museum in New York City. It's an incredibly moving experience to be there in what was the Twin Towers and is now a very fitting memorial. What you see is all the people that perished that day. And what you recognize is the incredible courage and bravery of our first responders. Not just on that day, but in the days that followed. People like our County Executive P.J. Wendell and so many others here from Chautauqua County and our region that went to New York City to help be part of the recovery. And what's probably most striking is that it really didn't matter what the color of your skin was. It didn't matter what your religion was or your political affiliation. We were all Americans on that day and in the days following and the months and years that went on. We are a resilient nation, and it gives me the confidence that although we face many challenges right now, we are resilient, that the things that unite us are far greater and far stronger than what divides us, and that we are the greatest country on earth, the greatest country that has ever existed, and we will get through these trying times. And the lesson of 9/11 is that we are the United States of America, and we will get through any challenge that we face. So thank you to our first responders, thank you to our veterans and those who serve, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Next, we have representing the United States representative for our area, Tom Reed. We have Jacqueline Phelps. Jacqueline?
We are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today has been a day of remembrance. It has been a day that we remember those lives that were lost of our fellow Americans. It is a day that we remember how important, how selfless, how special each and every one of our first responders are. It is a day that we remember how lucky we are to be in the land of the free because of the brave. It is a day that I will never forget as a 14-year-old global studies kid in Mr. Julian's class at Maple Grove, when he ran into the classroom and said, "Oh my God, somebody just hit the World Trade Center." And then that entire class watched as the second tower was hit. Nobody liked it, but it was certainly a lesson in global studies that morning. We are the greatest nation in the world because we are one nation. We have the greatest military and first responders who don't think twice, who don't back down, who serve our country and our community. And because of that, we're safe. Because of that, we're free. And so today, I am proud to be here on behalf of Congressman Reed to say, we remember those people whose lives were lost, and we thank our military, our first responders, and others, our nation, who came together on that day to be one nation under God. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Now it's time for a benediction. Then we'll do the 3 volley salute and play taps. Chaplain Koski.
God of all that is good, your gracious favor has gathered us together today to honor those who served and protect us, and to remember those who gave of their very selves to do this task. May we never take for granted the freedoms you have endowed for us as our founders proclaimed. They are inalienable rights, divinely imparted and not resting in the hands of man. What we remember today is far more than terror or fear or the destructions of great buildings. We remember how dedicated mercy and compassion are vastly stronger than steel and concrete, and infinitely more secure than weapons of one type or another. Amen. Sergeant of the Guard, honor our departed comrades. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending, and
virtual attendees, it's our honor, and we need to honor those people that have saved us. It's our tradition. There's something like 41.9 million men and women that have served in the United States military. If you threw in the first responders, you've got to be up well over 100 million people, and there's what makes us safe and be able to get up and do what we need to do every day. So thank you very much.